Welcome back to the Serving Kult Podcast. This is the place where you can explore culture, chaos, and hyperpop. Throughout this episode, we will be speaking to those who make things possible in the hyperpop and queer rave scenes from the UK to Europe. We will also be looking at what it's like to be an upcoming artist, doing all your behind-the-scenes work, to those who are artist managers, business owners, and event managers. So keep listening to learn more with me, Anya, and the lovely contributors of this episode. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. Well, thanks very much for having me. I'm Samuel Douek. I do a few things. I guess first and foremost, I'm a film director. That's my passion and my career. I mainly work across music videos and commercials, but I'm also in development for my first feature film, which is really exciting.
Wow.
A new chapter for me. And then alongside directing, I have a brand called HOWL, and everyone always asks me, how? Like how, who? And I'm like, no, oh. And HOWL consists of two parts. There's a rave, a queer techno rave in London that's been going since 2019. And there's also HOWL Worldwide, which is a sexual wellness brand. And the sexual wellness brand kind of emerged out of the pandemic when live events came to a standstill, and HOWL, the brand, was a great brand, but it was dormant basically. So we decided to evolve it into sexual wellness, and we've started that journey with two lubes, CBD lubricants. So yeah, film directing and lube and raves and all of that kind of merging together in a slippery way.
So my name is Lavinia. Everyone calls me Lav or Lavi. I am a artist manager / promoter / marketer / other things. Like everyone or artist liaison, I guess. Like everyone in the music industry does 1,000 different things. But my main roles is I'm an artist manager and I'm a promoter.
And whereabouts are you based for everyone listening as well?
I'm based in Bristol, but as you can tell from my accent, I'm from Italy originally.
I'm Jack, or also known as DJ Phantom Fellas, and I, along with Sailor and Bracken, or Bab Dwyer, and DJ Weaklings, run Gyratory, which is a club night that takes place in Leeds.
Yeah, hello, my name is Frimann. I am on live stream from Oslo, Norway.
It's very Eurovision.
Very Eurovision, yeah. I have lived in Liverpool for the past almost 4 years, but I recently moved back to Norway. I am an artist, singer-songwriter, performer, dancer, choreographer, everything, fill in gap. Yeah, I make disco pop, shameless or shame-free, homoerotic disco pop, and I'm trying to become like the next homo disco pop star. That's my goal, to be Europe's next homo disco pop star.
So you're very much kind of, I don't know, taking over the world really slowly from like one corner, each corner at a time.
I mean, I don't know about taking over the world. It's definitely a hustle. I basically run two businesses, and it feels like I'm kind of, they exist and they're in the world, but it feels like I'm getting them off the ground, and it is it's a lot of work, and I put a lot into it, and yes, I hope that they'll grow and they'll be kind of successful one day, but I guess I don't really think about like, oh, they have to be successful and that's when I'll be happy kind of thing. I kind of just really love the process. I'm loving film directing, and it's really exciting, getting to work on any project. It's an honor and a privilege really to be able to work on amazing projects. And, I only just want to keep on doing more. And with the business, the lube business, I mean, that's just been kind of really... It's been an education basically, because I've been doing nightlife for 10 years. So I really get, raves and rave culture, and like that kind of work runs like clockwork now, which is great. But the lube company, I originally went into business with some old friends, and I basically have taken over the business myself since September. So I've over the past 3 years, we were like growing the lube and developing it. I was learning a lot about, production and manufacturing and sexual wellness. And now that I've taken over the company, I'm really like running it myself, which has just been an amazing education. I mean, I've had to learn so much so quickly, but I'm really enjoying it. And it's also kind of nice to kind of exercise another part of my brain in a way, because the raves and nightlife and music and video and film, it's very creative, and that's like a really creative outlet for me. Whereas developing a lube brand, a sexual wellness brand, it's corporate, it's branding, and that has been really interesting to kind of approach. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to approach it in a way that is like ethical and gives back to the community that we've built. HOWL has an amazing queer community. It's so diverse, it's so eclectic, it's so like proud and inspiring. I find it really inspiring. And, I didn't just want to make a lube brand to kind of sell products. I wanted to make, firstly, an amazing product that people really benefited from, but one that also did more. We reinvest all of our profits into community services like STI testing and workshops. And obviously we run events. So we do loads of community activations and outreach. So it's kind of interesting being in this like new corporate world, but like kind of infiltrating it and like
I like that.
Yeah, like co-opting it so you can kind of give back to the community in a way. Like that for me feels really rewarding, and I'm kind of really excited to get it off the ground, basically, because we're doing a seed round of investment at the moment. So I'm trying to raise money so we can do more. And
for people who have never been to Gyratory before, or maybe you want to tell a bit more about that. What is Gyratory? What would we expect from a night there?
Oh, well.
It's the mischievous laugh at the start of that. Oh.
It's like every time someone asks me, I'm like, I don't even know where to begin, because it's very silly and chaotic and very camp. But it's also very high concept. So, and yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So the name comes from Armley Gyratory, which is like a giant roundabout in Armley. And the idea was kind of like that it was based on that, but also on this book by J.G. Ballard called Concrete Island, which
I thought you were going to say Crash then. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
I mean, kind of. There's some of that woven into it as well. But basically the plot of that is that this guy gets stranded on a motorway intersection and has this kind of like crazy experience. And the backstory for Gyratory is kind of the same. Like, people get stranded on this roundabout, and each club night is a different event that happens on the Gyratory. So it's kind of like inspired by that and William Burroughs and kind of like retrofuturism and things like that, really. But the night itself is just crazy, hedonistic, disco-infused, kind of goth at the same time night, but it's kind of a bit club kiddie, and everybody dresses up. It's great.
People just need to come and see it, I guess, really.
Yeah.
That's the simple way, just attend.
Yeah, I mean, seeing is believing. You've got to be there to experience it, basically.
Do you want to kind of give like a bit of an idea of a show that you do for people who've never seen it before? I mean, I've seen it, but me describing a show is very different to you describing it as the artist. So what would someone expect from a Frimann gig?
From a Frimann gig, I try to go a bit wild. I try to kind of just give everything that I have. I want to create concerts that are very, very welcoming and very inviting. I'm trying to interact as much as possible with the audience. Not that it's like I'm performing and you're just watching me. I want us to just have a big party and have fun. That's the goal always. If you like the music or if I sing well, that's, a plus. But overall, I want us to have fun. Yeah, I dance a lot. I sing a lot. I crack some jokes. I hump and grind a lot on my musicians. And I wear silly little outfits like this.
It's not a silly little outfit. It's a cute
Thank
outfit.
you.
We like it. And of course, you did just release some music, if you want to mention that as well.
I did. I just released my second EP, Sugar Papa, finally, which took a very long time, but now it's out in the world. It's a concept record about being a struggling independent artist who explores sexual work because the character of the story cannot make their money or make their, what's it called, like bread.
What does a day-to-day look like for you as kind of a director or an event manager, or whichever angle you want to put on it?
I mean, every day is different for me. And, I kind of love that, to be honest. I actually trained as an architect. So I did 7 years of architecture and, was working in architecture offices. And to be honest, I loved studying it, but I found the reality of like day-to-day professional practice to be like really boring. I'm not an office girly. I just hate being told what to do. I hate structure. Like I couldn't. I was like, no, sorry, I couldn't. So I fortunately found a passion. I found film and I loved it. So I kind of just, basically left 7 years of architecture behind me and decided to pursue my life as an artist at 26 years old. And I have never looked back, really. It's definitely been a hustle and a struggle. But yeah, I love that every day is really different. And, usually my day is divided by the different things I need to do. Like, for example, I'll spend the morning working on HOWL Lube Company. Then I'll spend a few hours making sure things are prepped for the rave, because our next event is 29th of June for Pride. So we're gearing up to that. And then the afternoon, I'll, maybe I'm pitching on treatment for a music video. So I'm coming up with creative ideas, or we're in the post-production process because we've just been shooting last week. So I'll go and see my editor or the VFX artist. So, and it also kind of depends, what's busy at what time. Because if I'm in full production mode for a shoot that's happening next week, I'll spend all day on that, and everything else kind of falls by the wayside. But because, film is peaks and troughs, whenever there's a bit of downtime, I put all my energy into HOWL. So I'm kind of just juggling a lot and doing different things. But I always make sure to sleep enough, to exercise, to see friends. I spent too long kind of just working and just putting my energy into that. And you really need breaks, and you really need to look after yourself, because it's not sustainable. You just burn out. And actually, the kindest thing you can do to yourself and the best way for your career to grow is to look after yourself and to prioritize sleep and eating well and socializing. Or at least that's for me. I mean, as one workaholic to another, this works for me. But some people just love to work, and some people hate to work. Some people just want to chill, and that's also okay. You don't also need to be doing a million things all the time.
What does a day-to-day look like for you as an artist manager / promoter, marketing person, everything in between?
Such everything. So there isn't a real structure, especially when you I think working as an artist manager is one of those jobs that there isn't really a structure to it. It goes by seasons and projects. I think most managers would agree. So it depends on what projects you have going on. Then you structure your day, your week based on that. So if there's an album release, a single release, there's the run up to it with music video shoots, meeting with press and etc. Then you structure in a certain way. If there's festival season, there's loads of gigging, then it's different. But so that's kind of hard to structure it. In terms of every day to day, but with work as a promoter, I guess it's very much office based during the week, watching sales, speaking with agents, doing advancing, etc., etc. And then you get to the weekend when the actual event happens, and that's where you put into practice all the logistics, all the advancing you've done throughout the week, and hopefully you've done your job right, so you sell loads of tickets and it's a really successful event. So yeah, I guess there isn't a real structure, just every job I think in this industry, but it just goes very much based on the project you're working on and very much based on the situation.
What does a day-to-day look like for you as somebody who runs a club night, but then also is a DJ themselves? What would we expect from a day-to-day for you running stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into prepping and planning for them, and so we kind of start thinking about it months and months in advance, and we usually kind of get the the story or the narrative for that event like down first. Usually there's lots of like drinking involved, and then once we've come up with a suitably like silly enough concept for the night, then we like start getting the poster design together, which that's like one of the funnest parts, I think. And then there's a lot of promoing, sorting out who's going to DJ, and trying to get people that kind of fit the vibe for that particular theme, I guess. And then, after that, we've been doing it for so long now that it's become a little easier. Like, there's not as much running around like headless chickens until the actual night of the event when everything kind of goes out the window. But, I mean, we also like to do like sort of like set design sort of stuff and make props and things. So, like, one of them we had that was like an oil spill themed one. So like the gyratory, like there was some sort of oil leak or something. It didn't really make much sense, but we just wanted to make it like a black theme.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the night though, it'll have had context, I'm sure.
It kind of worked. But yeah, so there's like an oil spill theme. So we got like a paddling pool, and we got some oil canisters. And I made this, what I thought was going to be like goo that looked like oil. But I made that about a week in advance out of like corn flour and paste and things, and by the time it actually got there, it had gone off. Oh, no. So we had some go-go dancers that were like dancing in this paddling pool and pouring the oil over themselves, but it kind of came out as like quite solid, and it stunk of vomit. So they had these go-go dancers like splashing around in this like vomity black goo,
like black slop.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, it's very chaotic, and we don't really follow a set plan, is basically the answer to that question.
That's so funny. I'm just taking it. Oh my god! Just the fact that they've had to remain professional as you made them pour this like horrendous liquid over themselves.
I think it was Barb Dwyer and Vayners actually that got the brunt of it, and afterwards we had like a bit of an after party at mine, and they actually had to go in the bath to get it all off them. And the bath was just black.
I was going to say, did it dye?
Yeah, they like stained their skin. They had to really scrub it off.
What does a day-to-day look like for you as an independent artist? What do you kind of... Say we're in the build-up to your EP, which has just come out.
Yeah.
What was a day-to-day looking like for you?
Well, I don't really have anyone on... Like, I don't have a team. I don't have a manager or anyone really helping me. So I do everything. So building up to the release, I was... emailing back and forth with the producer with the finishing the mixes, which is a very intense process of being, I think also like you have that last kind of like, okay, it's almost out. It's almost done. I need to like change anything I can change because I don't know if I've done all the work. So yeah, a lot of back and forth with the mixing. And then I did all the promo. I had everything filmed and I edited all of it. I reached out to a lot of different magazines and websites. I did the album cover. That took quite a long time to edit it. Is that it? I think maybe that's it. Yeah, and a lot of social media content.
How did you actually get into the scene? Like, how did you become what you are now?
So I got into the scene... Originally, I guess like it helped that I did a music business degree, not because of the actual knowledge that you get from it. Unfortunately, it's more about like the actual experiences and like work experience and stuff that comes with it. So I started studying music business 5-6 years ago. I kind of lost count. Graduated in 2020, so that was 6 years ago when I started my degree. And with artist management, it was one of the very first jobs I've done in the industry where I was like super like low key managing a friend. Back then I was like 18, 19. I had no idea what I was doing. So like, I don't really count that as like my very first experience. But when I was second year at uni, I worked with a booking agency, a live booking agency. And that's when I started. Bookings and management are kind of similar, but very different at the same time. Very different in terms of what you actually do, but you do work with people. So I guess there's a lot of similarities there. And then from bookings, I moved into working with management companies. And then I started my own management company that also does booking management. So yeah, I guess it's been a process. Like, I worked in different areas of the industry since the very beginning. I did marketing whilst I was doing also working as a booking agent assistant. And then I did management when I was also doing bookings. So I just always like everything kind of moved at the same pace and everything kind of developed together, because I think jobs like being a promoter and being an artist manager kind of go hand in hand. At some point you have to make a decision. That's what I always tell people. Like, the whole thing of like, I can do everything doesn't last after you're 25. So you need to start picking your battles, because it's just not healthy. But overall, in my case, it's been very much like doing all sorts of different things alongside my studies. And then when I finally was able to, I went full time with one thing and then kept doing everything else alongside it. And the rest is basically history, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was architecture. Like, architecture is broken up into three parts. There's like the undergrad, then you work for a bit as part one, then there's the master's part two, and then there's part three, some exams at the end. And you have to do that to be a qualified architect. It's really long. It's like 7 or 8 years. And, I did part one because I always wanted to be an architect and worked my ass off. So definitely like learned the meaning of, architecture school is so hard. It's like really intense and they really make you work. And that was kind of amazing. I feel like I really learned the meaning of hard work. So that gave me a good like work ethos. But after that, I was like, I don't want to be an architect. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. You meet these kids nowadays and they're like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And you're like, good for you. I had no idea. So I was like, well, I might as well do the part two, because like, what else am I going to do? But during my part two, my master's, that's when I kind of like really was trying to do other stuff. And I went to the Royal College of Art. So, that gave me access to the fashion school and the art school. And basically that's when I picked up a camera for the first time, when I was like 25. And I started making documentaries about gay bars closing down. And, these were some of my favorite gay bars, like the Joiner's Arms and the George and the Dragon in East London. That kind of, shaped me and like, made me find my community, really. And at that time was also when I kind of started experimenting with my own queerness. Growing up as a kid in the 90s in London or going into school in the early 2000s, it was pretty like, it was like sink or swim. You definitely couldn't be gay. So you survive and you repress parts of yourself. And even though I came out when I was 16, I still, was hiding parts of myself, and I wasn't like fully accepting. I was probably internalized homophobia. I mean, it wasn't really until I was like 24, doing my, second part of architecture and reading about queer theory and starting to experiment with drag, that I like really found a sense of who I was, or who I wanted to be, or who I could be, and that's also when I really started going out properly. I'd raved before, I'd been going to parties before, and but this was when I kind of really sort of immersed myself in the East London scene. And because there were these gay bars closing down, and because everybody was complaining about it all the time, there was such an air of like dissatisfaction. My friend Nico Torelli and I decided to start our own club night, which was like reminiscent of the club nights in 2009, 2010 that were like really fab. This was around 2014. Loads of stuff had closed down. Loads of people were unhappy. So we were like, let's do a club night. And we decided to do it first at Vogue Fabrics in Hackney, and then at Dawson Superstore, which is obviously like, everyone knows Dawson Superstore, an iconic London queer venue owned by the fabulous Dan Beaumont. And we started a club night and it was amazing. It was called Bump. It was like pop, R&B and house. Kind of like fashion-y, like that was our kind of like market, I guess, because Nico was, stylist in the fashion industry, and I was, I don't know, a confused architect, not knowing what to do. I was making these documentaries about gay bars closing down. I just started doing nightlife for the first time. I was considering leaving architecture, and then it all kind of collided together when I decided to basically build a traveling queer space called the camper van, which was a caravan, a trailer that had a stage that folded down out of one side. And we started doing queer performances, and that kind of changed everything for me, because that was when I realized, okay, I love performance, and I love documentary, because I made a documentary about the making of this weird performance van. And that's when I kind of decided to leave architecture fully. So I had this caravan, and we would do queer performances, and every month different events. And I decided to leave architecture, and I got a job in a gay bar as a barman to survive in London, because, London's expensive. And it was funny, I had a master's degree in architecture, and I got a distinction. Thank you very much. I was qualified. I could have got a job. And I left it all, got a job in a bar, and started traveling around, Europe and the UK doing these queer performances. So that's kind of, I guess, where my journey started.
And I guess, you've been authentic to yourself the whole way through, because if you kind of started architecture and realised it wasn't for you, you stuck to authenticity and thought, well, there's got to be a space for me. There's got to be a place where, I'm authentically 100% myself. And then you've ended up where you are now.
I guess so. I mean, it's funny because I never thought, I have to be authentic to myself because this is what I want, because I don't think I knew myself. I didn't know what I was. For me, I felt so young and lost, even in my mid-20s, and I said this earlier, I feel like you meet kids nowadays, and I meet loads of them because I run an event, and loads of 19, 20-year-olds come, and they are adults, or at least they present as such. I was a child. I mean, I don't know, maybe I presented as a adult, but I felt in hindsight, I look at myself as such a child, and I was just trying to figure stuff out. But I knew what I didn't want to do. And I knew I did not want to be working in a corporate architecture office. That for me was my idea of hell. And I was I'd be sat next to my colleagues who were my age now, in their early 30s, and they were depressed, they were overworked, underpaid. And I was just this isn't for me, And it is a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to choose to leave, a career. I think what's interesting is that I was young, and because I had never really been earning money yet, I had nothing to lose. So for me, going and getting a bar job out of uni was not a big deal. I think it's harder if you have a career and you decide to leave it and decide to pursue a career in art. For me, I just started poor and stayed poor for longer.
Rather than kind of going corporate and then moving back to kind of a very a retail job or a hospitality job where it's very much...
Yeah, exactly. And, I just took whatever I could get. The first films I got out of, after making some weird documentaries at university for myself, were all club promo videos. I used to do the videos for Sing the Pink before it kind of became really big, and for Savage Disco, and all of these kind of old club nights, and those are people that I met going out. So that's the most amazing thing about nightlife, is that it does forge this community of people who grew up together, and some of those people then become successful, and some of those people then book you for things, and it's a very democratic community and scene, and people do take care of each other. And all my first jobs were from people I knew and from mates, and that helped me build Showreel. That helped me become a director, basically.
I mean, I think when we first started doing it, so me and Sailor used to run a club night called Sex Club before Directory, and that ran for quite a few years. So we started doing that first because there was a lack of goth nights, and we just sort of knew that loads of our friends were into that kind of stuff, and so that's why we started putting that on, because we were quite keen to do stuff that was contemporary goth rather than trad goth or something, which is kind of what most goth nights tend to be, and that was really successful, but it kind of ran its course, and we kind of got a bit bored of the pigeonhole of it having to be goth music all the time, and then we met Barbed Wire and thought, let's do something different. And then the idea of Directory just kind of fell out it didn't fall out of the sky. It came to me as I was driving around the Directory, actually. And I wonder how I thought of that. And then it just kind of like happened, I guess.
What I love is of all the times I've driven around Army Directory, I've never had like an epiphany. I would just sit there thinking, please let the lights change. But you really just thought of a club night. That's amazing.
Pretty much.
Well, for the people listening who kind of, resonate with you and such, how did you personally kind of get into the scene, kind of into like the queer music scene, but then also music in general?
It's a long journey. It's a long story.
Summarize the journey. Take as much time as you want.
I've always been a performer since I could walk. Every like house or home video of me as a kid is like always dancing in my sister's ballet pink tutu, or like I'm always entertaining my family at any dinner or holiday. I was obsessed with Madonna from I was 5. My dream was to become her backup dancer on tour. And then I started taking dance classes when I was 7. I performed at every like school show, like talent show. I danced. So yeah, it started with dancing, and then I saw Lady Gaga perform when I was 12 here in Oslo, and I think that really changed it for me. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to just dance. Oh, that was wow. That was
that was so well done.
That was very slick. I don't want to just dance.
Did you plan that?
No, I didn't. I was amazed by my own mind.
Oh wow.
I wanted to do all of it. I wanted to sing. I wanted to write. I wanted to act. I wanted to dance. I wanted all the clothes. I wanted the drama. And so I think when I saw her perform, I realized that I don't want to just dance. I want to do it all. And that kind of began the journey of like, okay, how do you do it all?
So then how did you go about kind of creating what we see before us now as Frimann? Like, you are a persona, when you're on stage, you're very much like a superhero version of yourself. Like, how did you get to that point?
I think it was always inside of me. I think it was always a part of my personality. As a queer person, I have struggled a lot with shame. And as a queer person who's never really been in like a big queer environment, I don't really feel like I've had those colleagues to kind of experiment with or like grow with or transform.
I guess share experiences.
Yeah, it's been kind of like my own isolated experience. So I think that also maybe helped me a little bit back, that I was always surrounded with people that I was very different from. But I think a lot of it changed when I moved to the UK. I felt like the culture in England is so much more diverse and so much more open, and that inspired me to kind of experiment more. And I started playing more gigs. I think that also changed a lot for me, that I had like, when you do something a lot, you have more time to challenge yourself or experiment. So I think I would say that, but also I remember when I was for my 21st birthday, I went to New York, and we went to this gay bar in Brooklyn, and they had a drag night, and there were a bunch of performers, and it was this really awkward stage. Like the stage was very small, and it wasn't really ideal for a performer, but the drag performers just used every inch of the room, and we were so close, but they just really gave it their all. And I remember thinking, when I saw all of those performances, that, okay, I have to do more of this. Like I have to push myself I can do this. Like I can also use that space and really kind of change my persona as I walk on stage. I don't know if it happened that quickly, because that's like 2019, and I feel like who I am now is different than back then. But I think that was like a aha moment of, okay, you don't have to be on a huge stage to really go big.
You mentioned that it's a niche, you're working in quite a niche environment. Are there any kind of advantages or disadvantages to working in like the most niche area of music?
I like this one. So I mean, it's great. It's great because there is always a lot of potential in niche, and I find that you can get very creative with it, especially in the queer scene. Like, there's no real right or wrong, unless it's really, really bad. Like, you have a lot of creativity, and it's really fun working with artists that don't take themselves too seriously. They're willing to break boundaries and just reinvent themselves and reinvent what's cool, what's not cool. And sometimes the ugly becomes the beautiful, and the beautiful becomes the ugly. Like, it's like, it's like fashion. It's like fashion these days. Like, everything is fashionable if you really believe in it. So there's no real right or wrong. So that's one really cool thing. And then you can really have fun with it. And I have loads of fun working with my artists because the craziest ideas come out of their brains, and most of the time we make them happen, and they look really, really, really fucking good. So I think that's one thing. But obviously the fact of working with any niche genre is like, it takes much, much more work, because even when it comes to like finding the right gigs, finding the right collaborators, like, you can't just go out and just get any photographer to work with you. You can't just go out and get any stylist to work with you. It has to make sense with the vision, and it has to be unique, and and the problem about this industry is that nothing is ever unique enough, because it's constantly changing, constantly developing. So you're looking for something that has already, you're about to find something that hasn't been done, and the next day it has been done by someone else. Like, we found it with one of my artists. It's really funny that, like, we think about this idea, we come up with this, like, this is amazing, it's a groundbreaking, and then there's a big name, then the next day everywhere on social media they've done exactly the same thing, and we're like, are we being spied? It happened like 5 or 6 times, and we're like, what's going on? But that's because the industry history obviously goes in cycles, right? And everything is kind of, it looks new, but probably has been done before, or like there has been hints of it happening in history, or like people can anticipate it because there is a pattern that shows that this is about to happen. So it's just hard to obviously constantly be reinventing yourself. And that's something with niche genres, like, you have even more pressure of having to reinvent yourself, because you have to be unique. You have to be groundbreaking every single time. And I feel like with genres like house music, which I absolutely love, like classic house music, like, has got a look, it's got a sound to it. And it doesn't have to, like, artists that play that kind of music, they don't have to constantly reinvent themselves. And it's okay, and it's accepted. But if you do hyperpop, if you do alternative, if you do niche, like, nothing is ever unique or weird enough. Like, you're constantly chasing your own tail. So I guess, like, that's one of the things. But I don't think it's an issue within the industry. It's a pressure that, like, the music industry puts on us, the consumers put on us, we put on ourselves. Like, I don't think there's anyone specifically to blame. Like, when you're trying to do something outside the box, you're always going to have to fight this battle, whether it's with someone or with yourself. But it's fun. I guess, like, you just have to accept that then you're not going to reinvent the wheel every single time. And that's okay. That's one thing I always say to one of my clients. I'm always like, we're not going to reinvent the wheel, and that's okay. Not every single thing has to be groundbreaking. It would be nice, but it's not always possible.
Don't expect it every time. Maybe you'll do it like once or twice.
Yeah, exactly.
You spoke about, obviously, a lot about kind of like stylist photo shoots and stuff like that, and trying to reinvent yourself kind of visually, but then also, in live sets and stuff. Do you find there's limitations and opportunities for your artists and stuff with their kind of niche art styles and such?
Definitely from a booking perspective, because I think the UK industry, from a grassroots level, there's a lot of opportunities there's more opportunities. But when it comes to festivals and big events, or like warehouse events, like, it's still very niche, and it's 10 times harder. Like, if I was to manage a Berlin style techno DJ, which I absolutely love that kind of techno, but there's way more opportunities on a bigger scale and on a smaller scale. You know, you're kind of covering all the bases in that sense. And when it comes to hyperpop, like queer rave, or like, you know, with Talia, my live act, she calls it gritty pop. So it's alternative / in just a mix of genre. I'm trying to like pinpoint and just use a couple of words, but it's hard to describe. So it's just very unique, very exciting, very niche, which, you know, exactly like every artist I manage is very exciting, very niche. You're always going to find that, you know, you're going to get very interesting opportunities, but you can't compare it to the opportunities that a more mainstream DJ gets. And I think that's usually, as an artist, I mean, I'm not an artist myself, but I can imagine, and from obviously like talking to my clients, it's definitely difficult not comparing yourself to other people, especially when you're like same age, or like, you know, you're both women, or some sort of similarities. It's very difficult to focus on your own path, but you just need to understand that what you're doing is different from what other people are doing. And definitely what you play differentiates the sort of opportunities that you get. I think bookings is definitely the main thing where you see the difference, because you don't have huge hyperpop festivals in the UK. I mean, you have like mid-level ones, but you don't have anything, you know, even places like Glastonbury, that is such a big festival. There's like an area for everything. You probably only have like one small club in Glastonbury like area that does like similar music to that. So you have to just put things in perspective. And I think what I always say to artists that I work with, just focus on the overall progress rather than the specific thing. Like, don't get hung up on, oh, I didn't get this gig, or I wanted to get that gig. Just look at the actual process, because the fun thing about, you know, two sides of the same coin. So fun thing about doing a niche genre is that you can get creative in so many different ways. Whilst when you're a more mainstream artist, you're a bit more limited.
Yeah, because you're pigeonholed into kind of like a,
yeah,
oh, you play this music, so you kind of have to do those photos and this
exactly.
gig, and it's this
you know, you're not going to
progression.
have to get so creative. I mean, you can do it, but I guess that your audience is not expecting that from you. Like, and also you, when you like work within, when you develop a certain look and when you develop a certain genre, you don't expect those things from yourself either. So you wouldn't have a DJ that's very mainstream just be like, tomorrow I want to do some of the wildly crazy stuff that Rosalia does. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, not that Rosalia is not mainstream in some ways, but you know what I mean? Like, is you don't expect...
you wouldn't jump scare an audience, because you're kind of alienating people then if you were to be a bit too rogue and kind of go
exactly.
for like a...
Once you pick a path, you tend to stick to it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you can't move from a path to another, but especially when you're an artist, you put that pressure on yourself to actually, okay, I build this persona. People expect this from me, and I expect this from myself. So quite often when you start in one career, you don't move to another, or you make a drastic change. There's either one or the other. So I think it's just like, you know, you have limitations in terms of the actual opportunity that other mainstream artists would get, but then you can get more creative with it. And there's like a lot of crossover with other creative industries, and not necessarily music industries. So like fashion and like photographers, like loads of media based industries tend to prefer working with more niche, creative, outside the box kind of artists. So I always say that just look at the bigger picture. Yes, you didn't get that gig, but you got all these other opportunities. So much better to get like an overall growth as an artist rather than growing just on one area of your career. So like just getting that
one gig, but the gig's, you know, got 50 people in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's about focusing on that, because that's the thing. Like, there's a stigma in the industry about, you know, bookings is one thing. Loads of elements in the industry, loads of areas are very much stigmatized. But you think that if you get that gig, you're automatically going to be more respected. But it doesn't work like that. At least that's not how I like to see it. Not everyone is on the same path. Like, just because something worked for one artist doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So just focus on, as long as you're better than the person you were yesterday and there's some growth, then that's fine. That's how I like to see it. It's good to push yourself, but don't kill yourself trying to be someone that realistically you're not going to be tomorrow. It's a process.
Would you say that there are advantages or disadvantages to working and being an artist in such a niche area of music? Because I guess, I mean, you've named your own genre really as homoerotic disco pop. Like, that's pretty niche. Do you think that there's advantages to being such a niche artist?
I think so. I just saw Charlie XCX. She said something about that very recently, about how the niche is kind of finally becoming the ideal. And so I think it's happening right now. Of course, it's harder to market yourself if you're doing something niche, because a lot of people won't like it and they won't get it. So I think it's maybe easier to reach more people if you go safer or more mainstream. But I think, I don't know, the artists that I love have always done their own thing and have always stayed true to themselves. So for me, it hasn't really, I don't think I've ever really thought about not doing what feels right for me as an artist. That hasn't really come up as a suggestion even. But yeah, I think, it has pros and cons.
So how has your experience been in the industry as, well, an independent artist with no team, and it's all kind of your vision and your hard work?
I think that's a tricky question, because I don't really feel like I interact very much with the music industry. I think, or the way I view it, it's kind of like a bubble that you have to kind of like get into, and I'm not into that bubble yet. When I think of the music industry, I think of like labels and A&Rs and artists and songwriters that are kind of doing well on a higher level than I am. So yeah, but if you view the industry as also all the small independent artists like myself, which I guess it is, I think my experience has been very positive. I think the people that I work with, the people that I've met, I think are very kind and very supportive. But I haven't really engaged a lot with the people like higher up. I think it's hard to get in contact with them. So I guess like the music industry that I am around is much more kind of on my level, but I think they're very nice and I have a lot of great interactions with them, but I don't really have anything to do with like the higher up music industry yet. I guess I would say.
And how does that feel to be somebody who, I guess, is at such a grassroots level, but has such a vision and such a aspiration? How do you feel being in the position that you're in?
I think that's the most kind of, what's the word? Not draining, but I think that's the most, I guess, challenging part of what I do is I have spent a lot of time over the years trying to get in contact with people who, not people in power, but like people who have the opportunity to give you opportunities as an artist.
Yeah, and people who have authority and have contacts.
Yeah. And they never really respond. And I think that's the hardest part, is feeling like nobody sees you. And I think often I would appreciate rather getting an email like, "Hey, Frimann, thanks for reaching out." Basically getting a rejection, because then at least like, you know that they see you. But I think the hardest part is that doesn't really happen a lot. Like, and I get that they probably get a bunch of requests and emails, but I think that's the hardest part, feeling a bit invisible.
How has your experience been in the industry as a person with, so many responsibilities?
It can be difficult at times, I think. I think it's been getting, because we've been doing it for quite a while, and before I lived in Leeds even, I was like DJing down in London and stuff at events, and the feel of nightlife has just changed completely in the time that I've been doing it, and I think it is a lot more difficult these days.
In what way has it changed? How would you compare the two?
Yeah, people just have a lot less money to spend on going out now. It used to be the case that people would go out every weekend and that was kind of like the norm. But now I think people are a bit more choosy on what they spend their money on and when they go out. So it's more difficult to keep events afloat, basically, because there's less money sloshing about and things. But also I think it's kind of a lot more needed because of that. Like, people need
Spaces.
that space to blow off steam and kind of feel themselves, which like queer club nights kind of do. But yeah, so it feels more important, definitely, to do it now, but it's also more difficult, I think, because of that. Yeah.
You know, obviously you've got a lot of responsibilities being an event manager, but then also you're a DJ as well. So how has your experience kind of been being a DJ in this whole situation / event manager? Like, have you had any kind of weird moments or kind of...
Yeah, I mean, like, we don't take ourselves too seriously, so I think that has kind of like helped us really, because at the end of the day, you just kind of have to remind yourself like you're here to facilitate everybody else having a good time, and nobody's really gonna care about the tiny little missteps and things that happen behind the scenes, so long as you can maintain that image of like, you know, like a swan, like going crazy underneath the water, but like on the top you're like, it's fine. So yeah, I mean, we don't take ourselves too seriously, so when things do go wrong, we tend to just be able to like laugh it off and stuff. I mean, things happen all the time, like, you know, somebody's USB has got wiped or something and they've got no music on the night. That's happened before. It's just been like a nightmare.
It's just so depressing.
I know.
But what do you do in that situation? Do you kind of like find someone else to do it? What would you do?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's been times where like, you know, I've had to like Uber home and get another USB stick, or like, and I think, to be fair, like me and Sailor tend to DJ back to back or like take it in turns or something, and we play. I mean, one of the reasons we first started doing it, we have such similar taste in music. When we turn up on the night, sometimes like we'll have a lot of the same songs that we were planning on playing anyway. So when I
love that coordination.
Yeah. Or if I'm not playing it, like, yeah. So we can usually make things work like with just one of our USBs sometimes, when that has happened before. But yeah, I mean, it's never good when that happens.
Well, how has your experience been in the industry as a person being an artist manager?
It's been great. I mean, I feel like so from a promoter perspective, I've been in the industry for a way longer time. I've been an artist manager for like 4 years now. If you don't count my beginning of my career, just working for like other smaller companies. I think it's been great because it's a great industry to be part of, and it's a lot of rewarding elements. I think it's 10 times, and I'm going to go on to a topic that, you know, kind of everyone expects me to talk about, but I think it's 10 times harder when you're a woman and a queer person in the industry, and just like working in a male-dominated industry, doing roles, especially like artist manager, that is such a, historically speaking, a male role. It's just harder. I feel like you fight these constant battles of having to, you know, fight your own demons, and, you know, everyone has got that like imposter syndrome, you know, catching up with the industry, keep learning. I'm young, and you already have that kind of like, am I good enough to do this? And then you have that one thing that happens, yes, I am great, and then the next day, oh no, I'm not. Like, there's like a constant thing in this industry, right, where you never feel like you're good enough, or like, you know, you're there and all that. But then also you work in an environment where there's so much pressure, but there's also like a lot of really welcoming people, especially if you're a woman, if you're a queer person, if you're, you know, you don't fit within that box. It's harder. So I feel like it just helped me. I'm not saying it was sad or anything, because I only take these kind of things as a challenge, but I guess it just helps you understand how to fight these battles and how to be in this industry. Like when you're a woman, like you just understand that you have to be 10 times stronger than a man, and you have to prepare yourself to deal with certain situations. So yeah, I guess it's been great. It's been a massive learning curve, and it's just only made me more excited of like being a manager, and especially representing people like me, like queer and femme creatives. And yeah, I guess it's just been, like I say, up and downs, but it is what it is, unfortunately. And the reason why I want to work in this industry is not to compromise or like become someone that I'm not, but it's more to try and see if I can do my bit and make a small change in the industry in that sense. So I'm just excited, to be honest. It's kind of the hard truth to learn when you start working in this field, to like understand, okay, I'm gonna have to deal with sexism, I'm gonna have to deal with this, you know, and it's not great, but when you realize that this is one for you to fight, then you know you can prepare yourself for it. And if anything, you're more excited to go ahead and to prove everyone that, you know, the women are great and they can do everything that a man can do, if not more.
Honestly, I mean, this pep talk would have been really nice when I was like 18 and I went into the music business. Because I was literally there like, this is so difficult. And like, I don't know, you email people and they're like, oh, you know, this and this and this. And you think, don't try and mansplain like this to me, because I already knew that while I emailed you. That's what my email's about, please. But it's fine. I'm like, you know,
it's hard. It's hard because
like a year in, and it's a little bit better and it's a little bit more accepting, but still it's, I don't know. Now and again, I meet people and I'm like, oh, no.
It does. To be honest with you, I used to get, so when I started in the industry, and that's why I wanted to say this, because I didn't want to be like, it's been amazing, it's been great. I mean, it has been amazing, obviously.
But it also sucks.
Because that's why I'm here. I wouldn't stay somewhere that I'm not happy. So, we don't get paid that much. We get stressed every day. We work weekends. We wouldn't do it if we weren't happy with it. Like, we weren't actually excited and passionate about it. So definitely that's something, like, I'm definitely excited. It's been an amazing few years. And I think that being an artist manager is like the most amazing job. Like some people tell me, like, how can you do that? Like, I would never be an artist manager, because it's like being a teacher, right? Like, you are constantly helping someone growing, and it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of up and downs. But if you love it, like, that's just the most rewarding feeling ever. So I absolutely love it, but you know, there's always going to be downsides. And I think one of the main downsides is that men, especially, unfortunately, will not take it seriously. You walk in a club with your artist next to you, and they're going to think that you're there to hold their bags, or they're going to think you're their sister or something like that. Like, their brain doesn't cross. Yeah, it doesn't cross their mind. Maybe that's their manager. No, that's just that's not an option.
Women
they
can't
go
do that.
through
What
every
do you
single
mean?
role. Like, so I had to go through it, and at first I used to get so upset, and then now I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. Like, you know, I'm if I have to explain 5 times that I'm the artist manager, I will do it. At the end of the day, I'm going home. I'm not the one with a problem. Like, it's not someone else's problem.
Very true.
Not mine.
What's one thing that you wish you knew before kind of getting into your career spaces?
Oh gosh, there's so many things I wish I knew. I mean, I have no regrets. I think that like every person's path, you know, is I wouldn't say meant for them, because I'm debating whether I believe in fate, but you know, I think that however route you go, like, you get so much from that. You know, I started my recent career late. You know, I made my first film at 27. So, you know, I don't think there's a right time for anything. I'd probably say maybe like invest in Bitcoin. Literally every like really wealthy, fabulous person I know who lives an amazing life, like jetting around the world, like,
seriously,
I like did something with Bitcoin, and I like still don't even really need to understand what crypto is really. But I'm like, okay, like in a former life, maybe I would have done that.
In a former life, I would have beaten everyone to the post and got the cryptocurrency straight away.
Yes, although like I really do not believe that like money is what makes you happy. And honestly, I feel very fortunate that despite still maybe being a bit of a struggling artist, I do get to you know, do the job of my dreams and work on it. You know, it's funny because just, you know, one more thing to add, I guess, is for a while when I started making films, I was like, oh, I should have gone to film school. And so, you know, I loved doing architecture, but did I need to do part 2? Did I need to do the masters? Maybe I should have gone to film school instead. But actually, I'm glad I didn't, because I think my architecture education really gave me like an interesting perspective that's unique to me. And also, like I said, I felt really young. Like, I don't think I was ready to kind of go on this like creative journey that I've been able to pursue in my like late 20s, early 30s. So yeah, I don't wish I'd done anything different. I think that I got a lot from the path that was right for me.
sometimes, do you know what? People always ask me, and there's been like, I've been full-time in the music industry for like 5-6 years now. And people, the key and the normal question I always get from everyone is like, how can you do it all? And the truth is that I don't, that at some things in my life, I don't do it. And for example, my personal life or like my social life, I don't do that really well. I do really well my work life, but you can't balance everything. So if you want a bit of everything, when it comes to your jobs, when it comes to your own life, something has to give. And I think when you're young, it's good to do loads of things because you're learning, because you don't have huge responsibilities. But when you start thinking about the future and like relationships and like family and things like that, you have to start making, even for your own mental health, sitting there without doing anything, sometimes it's healthy, which is something that I never really thought about. But spending quality time on the sofa with your friends, it's not a waste of time.
What advice would you just give to somebody who wants to be in your position, who wants to kind of aspire to your role?
I think is work hard. I mean, it's not something that I would suggest I would tell myself, because I've always been like working really hard since I was a kid. I started working when I was 13 back in Italy, and like every summer ever since. So work has always been like part of my being. But I think working hard, because there's something in this industry, like there's people that look like they're doing a lot, and there's people that are actually doing a lot, and everyone wants to be in this industry, but no one really wants to put the effort in. And I know I'm about to say something like very controversial, but I know a lot of like incredible people in the industry, but I also know a lot of people that don't deserve the position they're in. So I think that it's a lot about who you know. It's all about, it's all about the networking. So definitely do that. Don't think that that's not important, but also actually focus on growing and doing a good job and work on your skills, because it's about who you know. That's how you get loads of opportunities. But if then as soon as you get the opportunity, you don't have the skills, everyone is going to be laughing at you. So actually spend time. Yes, go to that gig, have fun, have a drink, network, but actually after that, do something with it. Take some time apart to actually learn the job and keep learning, because like the industry is full of dinosaurs that think that they've done it for 20 years, 40 years, so they know everything. But it's continuously evolving, this industry. And if you're not willing to open your mind, same way that society, in more like social context, you have to always be open to the change of things changing and catching up with things, then I don't think you can do a good job in this industry. It's all about keeping up with the change and keep being interested and eager. I think that's the thing. But yeah, I guess like just be yourself as well. It sounds really, really lame, but there's a lot of people that wear masks in this industry, just like every media-based industry. I think looking back I was trying to fit in quite a lot at the start of not just my career, but my teen years. I was trying to fit in quite a lot, like from every aspect, from my sexuality to like my identity, my job. And in fact, you don't really need that. I think it's a very welcoming industry, and it's much better if you're yourself, because it's more sustainable and it's more fun, and everyone will probably accept you if you're yourself. So
thank you for coming along with us on a little tour behind the scenes to find out who makes music possible. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to learn more, you can find all of our social media at ServingKult on all platforms. There will also be extra interview content and behind the scenes, so make sure to give us a follow. If you want to hear some of the music from our contributors, also make sure to check out the Serving Kult radio show. Tune in next month to hear all about Hyperpop and only Hyperpop. See you soon.